Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of Heroclix. It's a nice sort of day at my apartment in Topeka, and yes, I am recording from this location. You might ask, "Hey, Dark Logos, what's happened? We didn't get an episode last week. You're sort of like a weekly show." Well, here's what happened. I went home during the weekend. I got my headset at home. I record from my webcam normally, so I have my webcam here, and I have my headset back in Kansas City. So I was setting up, and I use my headset for all other number of programs. I even recorded the roundtable episode that we did using my headset. And I recorded in Audacity, wouldn't pick up my mic. And I recorded in not Ventro, TeamSpeak. Didn't pick up my mic after, let's say, an hour and a half of recording. So there's a magical hour and a half show that no one will probably hear. Uh, and so, well, yeah, no one's going to hear it because it was nothing but static. So pretty much that's what happened. Sadly enough, we have wasted, well, I have wasted time and you don't get an awesome show. So you might say, well, Dark Logos, aren't you going to just, repeat verbatim the information that you gave out before? Not exactly. We're going to have some addendums and talk about some various things today. All right, so with that being said, what we're going to talk about today is first off, we are going to look at, and putting it in a nice way, we're going to look at opponent analysis. And we're going to look at that first. And then if you follow the blog, you can sort of see where my thinking has been. And we're going to look at loss analysis. And more specifically, asking the question, where did I fail? So that's pretty much what today's show is going to be about. Feel free to skip around to various parts and things, and we will be good to go. Okay. All right. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Opponent analysis is very essential, mainly because if you don't analyze your opponent quickly enough, you can be trapped. Now, there are two types of traps. There are traps that are set up from the team itself, and then there are traps set up from the mindset of the player themselves. So there's two levels. There's what the team can do, and then there's what the player can do. Okay? And in analyzing those traps, you're able to figure out, okay, hey, this is what I need to do, this isn't what I need to do. But in analyzing your opponent, you're able to know how to navigate during the game and even after the game. And so what we're going to do, we're going to just talk about how can we analyze our opponent. First off, the most simplest thing that you can do in analyzing your opponent is ask them the following three questions. Who is your favorite superhero? Why? And what is it that they do that you like? Those three questions, believe it or not, reveal a ton about how a player plays. Okay? Because let's say someone says, I love Black Panther. Why do you love Black Panther? Because he's combative, he's in there, he's a melee fighter, but he's also a thinker. Oh, okay. And so you like him because of his thinking ability or his just overall power. Oh, mainly his thinking ability, and he uses power when he needs to. Okay, so what can you learn right there? All right, that person values what? Thinking. They like Black Panther, which is classically, you could say a B grade hero. Yeah, a B grade hero. They're sort of trying to upgrade him to an A class hero, but they really keep him on the low. The person values intellect. The person values sort of a tactical nature. Okay, that means that when you look, and also you could say the melee combat element. So if you look at that opponent, how's that going to break down? They're going to probably have shenanigans. They're going to probably have traps, but more importantly, they're probably going to have some sort of intermittent game where it's somewhere in between range and somewhere in between melee. Okay, so three simple questions, you can deduce a lot. Because if you ask a person the following question, what is your favorite power? Well, yeah, the following question is, what's your favorite power in Heroclix? What tactic do you like the most and why? They're going to know that you're poking and prodding into how they play. Okay, so you have to be subtle about it. And now, no, if a whole bunch of people in the next few weeks come around asking, who's your favorite superhero and why, then ask them if they listen to the Starting Over podcast. So anyway, the next thing that we want to do in analyzing our opponent is, now this is not necessarily for people that are new to a venue, but people that have played at the venue for a while. Or with a group of people for a while, is what does a person normally play? And I bring this up a lot, but this is a great way for you to, just counter meta people is. What do people play a lot? Are they distracted by the new shiny of whatever sets out? If so, then you always sort of know what to bring. If they are a person that will play certain odd things in spite of what's out, then yeah, you're going to have a little bit harder time. But the one thing I have learned is about 80% of the player base is distracted by the new shiny. Oh my gosh, did you see what that Chase Thor did? He's able to throw lightning bolts across the map and do an automatic penetrating 1 damage. Okay, whatever. That's all well and good. Okay, but no one's looking at the fact that we still have Pass the Power Abensur legal in the meta. People don't look at the fact that we have a good amount of figures. Like Isis is still pretty awesome. Attacker, TK, or Prober, 90-something points, but she's an in-game cleaner. She has a Hulk dial. She just gets better. You have figures like Osiris, speaking of pretty much Isis. Osiris is still solid. Is he the great 104 points that you can spend? No. But with Teen Titans coming back, he has a place. So those things are in the forefront of a solid player's mind. But the average player is like, woohoo, I just got the new Chase. Check it out. My team is awesome because I have the new thing. Okay, so if you can go into a venue and you can notice, like, the moment that a new set comes out, the first 3 weeks, everyone is playing from that set, then you definitely know you're dealing with the new shiny crew. If you're dealing with people who are playing maybe 1 or 2 figures from the new set and older stuff, those are the folks that you have to be a little bit more concerned about because they have specific things that they see to exploit. Very specific things that they see to exploit. So keep those elements in mind. All right. The next thing when we look at analyzing our opponent is what type of team is in front of us. Now we're getting into the game. Okay, so for all those people who are saying like, oh my goodness, I'm tired of this jibber jabber. Let's get to the meat. Okay, here's some more meat for you. All right. When you look at the team, the first thing that you have to deduce is What does this team do? What is it? What can it do on this map or on a map? And is what they do very specific? Is it very specific? Okay. So when you look at your opponent's team and you reveal forces, if you cannot figure out what their team does in the first 3 minutes, you're in trouble. And I mean that seriously, because whatever other effect that team has is very dubious, A, or B, it's something that when you step in it, you won't be able to get out. And so you have to be very careful. Okay, this isn't like poo on the shoe. Okay, where you can wipe it off and then go on about your day. It's like stepping in tar. It still sticks on the shoe, even after you try to clean and clean and clean it off. It just doesn't go away. So once you're able to deduce what your opponent's team does, then you're set for most of the round. Now here I'm going to give you some backup plans if you cannot deduce what your opponent's team does. First off, ask your opponent to look at their cards. Just ask them politely, hey, may I please see your cards of your figures? Okay. And then look through the cards, read the powers, and try to keep a short list in your head of the effects and what effects that they do with each power. Okay. Then if you see a power that's like, oh my goodness, this is broke, okay, and it interacts with another power, sort of scan around and sort of guess which character has that power, which this new crazy power interacts with. Okay, then you can sort of put something together so you can know, oh, that's what they have planned. Okay, so I'll give you something simple, something very, very simple. I have a team of two, I can say it, yeah, two Bruce Banners from Incredible Hulk, Starfire and Wildfire, and whatever else filler. Okay, if you look at that, just those those 4 figures total. 2 Bruce Banners, Starfire. Actually, I need to be more specific. Starfire from the team pack, and Wildfire. Okay, what do you deduce is about to happen? Oh yeah, we're about to get energy exploded out the wazoo. Okay. Oh, and I'll add Zabaro on there so I can see through stealth to guarantee I can get my energy explosion off. Okay, so now all of a sudden we're in a position where if we look at that team and we're on the other side of that team, we need to say maybe we shouldn't clump up. That would be a bad idea. Okay. Also, you can look at it like with Starfire, she has penetrating energy explosion. Well, the funny thing is, it doesn't say penetrating 1 damage. So when you combine her with Bruce Banner, I was about to say Bruce Wayne. When you combine her with Bruce Banner, then automatically it's 2 penetrating damage. And if you're able to get a double splash, then it's going to be 2 and 2, which is 4, which is very, very strong. Very, very strong. So anyway, so if you're not paying attention, all of a sudden Starfire runs up with Bruce Banner and hits you for a whopping 2 penetrating with energy explosion. And you're stuck there like, hold up, wait, how are you able to do that? And then you look at all the splash damage that happened because you were clumped together, and then Wildfire comes in and follows up with another massive energy explosion. So you have to watch and look for those common powers, and looking for those common powers, you're able to deduce a lot. The next thing that you need to to do if you cannot figure out what your opponent is doing is just take a step back, look at the field, and maneuver very, very slowly down the field. And I don't mean sucking up your opponent's time, but what I do mean is this: you need to move in a method in which you're able to count out squares and know like your opponent cannot reach you. You know straight up that your opponent cannot reach you, and just slowly and gradually deploy, and then see how your opponent is deploying themselves. If your opponent is deploying very aggressively, then yeah, it's pretty much they're coming for you. So you just need to be made aware of that. But if your opponent is just passing, then your opponent is waiting for you to come in there, and then there's something going on. So just keep that in mind. All right. So we're going on into the game, and we know what our opponent is doing just because of their team construct. We've picked a map that works for us, or our opponent picked a map that works for them. Regardless, we should still have a plan. Then the biggest thing that we're going to be looking at in this analysis is when you hit that mid game and you feel that the trap hasn't been sprung or all the shenanigans hasn't been brought, look and take an assessment of your opponent's force of what they have and see if you're able to do that. Okay? Really take a look at that, because what will end up happening is either A, your opponent, if they haven't pulled the trap yet, then they're either waiting for something specific to happen, or B, they can't pull the trap off, so you're actually good. So that's the big thing that you need to be mindful of in analyzing your opponent. In game, the main thing in game that you have to see is your opponent stalling, and there's only so much that you can do about that depending on your venue. And then the second thing that you need to see is how many turns before you feel that the game is over. Given average rolls, how many turns before you think the game is over. Do a quick guesstimate and say, if I do this, this, and this, I can kill him in 3 turns. Then you need to be able to plan out what those 3 turns are going to look like. Okay? All right, so I hope that this helps. I know there's some things that I sort of want to go into, but I'm not, just for the pure fact that I want you introduced to these ideas. And then also, there are some methodologies of dealing with your opponents that some venues would not approve of. There's some methods that your venue would not approve of, but I think are valid, such as if your opponent takes a long time on turns and has done this for several tournaments, then you bring an aggressive team that's able to take a whole lot of points quickly, but not really last that long, and then you take long turns. And you clock your opponent. A lot of other venues don't allow you to have your own timepiece or utilize your own timepiece during the round, but I clock my opponent sometimes. If they're really, really bad about taking long, it's like every turn is super long. And then I'm talking about like for consistent games, like every game I play them. Then I'll clock them and say like, okay, you're taking 5 minutes a turn. I'm going to take 6 minutes a turn. So I'll make very aggressive moves, and then all of a sudden I'm in a horrible position, but time is up. So you can play it like that, and there's some more advanced things, but I really don't want to get into that because, like I said, it all depends on the culture in your venue. So if you want me to go into those sort of things, just email me at startingoverpodcast and let me know. All right, let's get into the second part of the podcast, is dealing with failure, and not only dealing with failure, but sort of figuring out, where did I fail? Where did I fail is a question I've had to deal with myself lately, because I've lost two games in which I could have won the uh, No Man's Land Batgirl, which I feel is a very excellent piece. Um, and so, anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you a text that I got from George Masu. Well, part of a text, and in which I was pretty much saying, like, hey, I had this loss and it grabbed me. How do you overcome loss? And then I talked to him after I lost again. So uh, I'm gonna read this text, part of this text, and then I hope you get the essence of where George is coming from. He says, "Real talk. Only losers are defeated by loss. Winners still lose, but learn, come back stronger, and continue to win." And that point that really hits me is, winners still lose, but learn, come back stronger, and continue to win. The the thing that I find hard is figuring out, when did I lose, or how did I fail to succeed. And for many people, they say, "Oh my gosh, he played this team, he played that team, rock paper scissors, Heroclix. There's nowhere guaranteed for me to win." Blah. Some days, in part, that is true. Please note when I say that. Some days, in part, that is true. And the main reason I say that is for the following. You can have a day in which you are at the, the, the final bracket round and out rounds, and you just get paired up with the team that completely counters everything you do. Completely counters everything you do. All right. And you can look at that other team that's across the board and say, man, it has a lot of glaring weaknesses, but none of the weaknesses I can't exploit those weaknesses on my team. I don't have anything on my team that he is weak against, but he has everything on my team that I'm weak against. And then you can say, hey, if the pairings were different, this team would lose. Okay? I want you to get that into your mind. That when you say, this team has everything to counter me, I have nothing to counter it, and if the pairings were different, this team would have lost, then you have a rock, paper, scissors moment. Okay? That's the only time. All right? But if you can say, from jump, I had a chance at this, then guess what? You're not in a rock, paper, scissors moment. There's a point where failure happened. Okay? There is a point where failure happened. Either on it, well, let me rephrase this. It's all on your end. And I think what'll happen is, for people to feel better about themselves and have comfort in their failure, they'll say, oh, all the problems were outside of me. They're not my fault, not my responsibility. It's not my fault I lose. No, it is your fault you lose. Okay? I'm not going to pull any punches on this. It is your fault that you lose. Take responsibility. Don't punk out. Don't dodge responsibility. That's the one thing I hate when I look at AC Realms on the forums. People say, oh, it's my opponent's fault and they played cheese. Man, shoot. Up your game. If you're a casual player and you want to play comic book accurate teams and get better at that, then up your team building game. Up your placement, up your map selection game. But that's a whole nother rant for a different time. Okay? So I'm coming from the perspective, if you haven't already told, that we are responsible for our loss. Not the dice, not the, oh my gosh, he played the cheesy team. It's we are responsible for our loss. So let's break it down. First off, we have to look at, did I fail in concept? Okay? Did I fail in concept? If there is a Superman set out and my concept is to play a lot of range figures that have a 3 base damage, I'm sorry. My concept is a poor concept for the meta. Okay? And that's one reason why Bullseye sort of faded when Superman set came out. He was still legal, yeah, but he couldn't do jack. Yeah, you can get him into Psychic Blast, but he has to take damage. He's only doing 2 damage. Then you have to pump him up so much so that he can do decent damage. No. So what happened during Superman's set? We saw the emergence of Psychic Blast and Pulse Wave like crazy. But I digress. Was your concept sound? Okay. I will use my personal example from this weekend from a 300-point team. My 300-point team is on the blog, so go check it out. Startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. So I don't have to repeat the whole team. You can see it there. But what ended up happening with that team is my concept was I need to get better at placement. I am forcing myself to build a team that relies on placement. I can't just charge in there and expect that my opponent to land this hit, then I can heal it off. There's no support on there. I can't plan to charge forward and have my opponent not be able to touch me due to barrier. It won't work. Okay? So I have to come back and say, what can I do functionally? And what works. And I have to move very, very meticulously because I have 3 actions and 5 figures and lots of willpower. So you can look at your concept. Did your concept fail? Was it a good concept from the get-go? Should someone have slapped you and said, you know what, building around Swamp Thing in this meta is a bad idea? Okay, so did our concept fail? Was our concept a bad idea? So once we assess that, then we can say, wow, how many of my games have failed from concept? Not necessarily, like, oh, I put these pieces on the board and I'm going to use these figures, but you just picked a poor concept that wasn't suited. Okay? The next thing that you have to look at after you assessed, all right, was concept the cutoff point. The next layer is the figure that you are going to build around, or figure combination that you're going to build around. Was that executed properly, or was that selection the best? Now, here's where people will gimp themselves. They will say, hey, man, I'm going to play X piece. And then X piece, I've always seen X piece play with Y piece. Therefore, X and Y are always the best pieces to play together. That's stupid. That's lazy thinking. Just because you've seen someone do that does not mean that it was the best. Or you can say, oh man, I saw this at Worlds. I saw this at, Dragon Con, Emerald Con, this con, that con, your con. Okay, and this guy pulled this combo off, and I'm going to do that, so therefore it's good. That's stupid. That's very stupid. And here's why. And I'm going to say this from talking with people that have been to those cons. Everybody doesn't have everything, and definitely a lot of those people that go to those cons don't have everything. And there's some figures in there that are in there because they didn't have another substitute for their team, and they couldn't get it in time. All right, so you can't assume Just because you saw it at a big tournament that person picked out of all the best figures and made that team. The next thing that you can't assume is about that team is that it still works in your meta. Because if it's 5 months later and you're looking at Gen Con for tech, I'm sorry. We've had so much stuff flood into the meta since then. So your stuff may be obsolete. I've had conversations with Alex in which I've said, you know what, dog? I think that the time for Morgan Le Fay, came and went, and he agreed. So if you're looking around and people are still playing Morgan Le Fay tech, well, okay, if they like it and enjoy it, that's one thing. But if they're doing it thinking that it's high level meta, I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's stupid because it's not high level meta now. It has lots of problems now. There are serious counters that are in the meta now that weren't in the meta before. Okay, so that's the next thing for you to think about. So you need to actually say, maybe I need to do A and X, A and Y, Z and B, Z and Q, Q and R. Okay, that's what type of pairings that you need to look at. You need to say, all right, I looked at my concept. I feel my concept is solid. Okay, then I'm going to go into the piece selection. I'm going to abide by my concept. I'm going to use these pieces because these pieces work, not because I saw them done. Okay, so if you look back at the end of the tournament and you're like, man, these two pieces did not work together, write that down in your Heroclix notebook and say, man, I failed at this level. My piece selection was crap. The other issue that you need to say is, was your main pieces for your core concept there, or did you have elements that distracted you? I brought up this example before for a team that I built and how one element distracted me. And this is before resources, people, so bear with me. It was Black Adam. What was it? Taro, Johnny Quick, and I wonder, it's not Union Jack. Crap. And you know what? It's funny. It's like he's the one guy that I praised him for so long, and now I forgot him. He came from the Superman set. He had the TK. He had the Union Jack on his chest. He had like TK and Psychic Blast and crap. And what's funny is I'm going to finish this show, and then I'm going to remember his name. But anyway, what happened was my first draft of the team, I had what was it? A Scorpio key on there. Okay. And the Scorpio key was going to give me all this added range to be used. And it was a distraction. So I would TK up. Oh, Manchester Black. That's it. Yeah, Manchester Black was going to get the Scorpio key to increase his range. But I found that by the time I had TK'd up Black Adam, perplexed or probed and did all the stuff that I did, that the battle was so far ahead of me that when I rolled for the Scorpio key, I couldn't even say Manchester Black was a sweeper because he literally, the only thing that he did on the team was TK. For every practice match that I did, every real match that I did, all he did was TK. So I came back to the team and I removed the Scorpio key. And I was under points. There was nothing else that I added. And all of a sudden the team worked flawlessly. What you might think is essential might actually be fluff, and it might actually be hurting your team. So there are teams out in the meta in which I can say, you know what, this team doesn't need a resource dial or a relic. And people would look at me crazy like, how dare you speak heresy of not using a resource dial or a relic? Well, it just doesn't need it. It might just need a kryptonite and it's fine. Or it might just need, standard objects and it's fine. Come out from among the idiots that tell you that oh, you have to do this, have to do that with every team that you build. Leave those people alone. Would I say, yeah, you're going to have certain difficulties? Yes, but if you're able to compile a team that overcomes those difficulties, then you're good to go. And with the crazy amount of outsiders that we have, oh my goodness, yeah, you should have no problem. Outsiders just screws over the relics in the resource dials so bad right now. Like, oh my goodness, there's no excuse for anyone to actually complain about resource dials right now, to the extent of everyone has the ability to play some form of outsiders. All right, off that level, since we've been in there for a while, let's go to the next level of pre-game. Pre-game breakdown goes as follows. Did I drink water? Did I get enough sleep? Have I been exercising regularly? Am I depressed? Am I dealing with my girlfriend calling me about the status of our, situation of our relationship? Am I still thinking about that T9 form that I had to fill out at work? Okay. If these things are elements that affect our play. Like let's take, for example, exercise. If you do not exercise at least 30 minutes a day, you're going to have a decay in your circulatory system, mainly in your cardiac area, which is your heart. Okay? 30 minutes of walking, not even heavy exercise, just gradual walking will help you preserve your blood flow. You need blood flow to go to your brain, which you use to play Heroclix. Wow, so you're telling me, Dark Logos, that if I exercise, that'll help me improve my gameplay? Yes, I am. So, same thing of what you're eating. If you go into a venue and you have low blood sugar, guess what? You're going to have problems. If everything that you've eaten in the last 24 hours involves, salt, sugar, and fat, you're going to have problems. And you're going to say, like, when did this turn into a health show? This is legitimate, people. And I didn't think about how legitimate it was, the health element in high-level gaming, until I listened to another podcast show. It's called the Day 9 Daily. A lot of the elements in this show is taken from that show, mainly the Heroclix notebook idea. And so Day 9 Daily, Day 9 is at the Red Bull StarCraft Battlegrounds training session. Okay, and so it's Red Bull. It's a caffeine drink. And they have dietitians there and people giving massages and stuff. And what was interesting was Day 9's comment about his conversation with the dietitians. And the dietitian said, it's okay for you to take in caffeine as long as you take in enough water so that it doesn't shrink your brain. Excessive amounts of caffeine can affect your reaction time. It can affect your cognitive ability and your decision making. And what you eat and what you drink and the amount of exercise that you have can affect not just your mental capacity, but your reflex capacity. And so then it dawned on me that if I eat properly, if I have a balanced diet, if I exercise, if I breathe in and do some breath exercises and relax, that I can play better. Wow, who would have thought? So it's very serious. I'm not telling you to go on this diet or that diet or to eat 5 servings of vegetables a day and an apple. Okay, I'm leaving the logistics to you. But I am telling you that healthy eating and not eating the typical gamer foods will actually help you perform better. Getting a good night's sleep ahead of time will help you perform better. Having a nice little 15-minute nap or break so you can relax before the tournament will help you. I think I brought this up before. I used to play competitive chess in high school, and I did a little bit in college. Very, very little. Uh, I went to nationals in chess, which some people are like, oh my gosh, you went to nationals in chess. It's not as big deal, people, because all you have to do is pay your money. You can show up. And I was in like the lower bracket ranking. Okay. But I can tell you this from going to nationals 3 years is the following things: rest, sleep, water. And when you do 3 rounds a day, yeah, three rounds of chess a day, and you're completely wiped out, and all you did was play chess, then that should tell you something. So get your mind right, people. Get yourself right before you even show up to the venue. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Okay. The next thing is, if you see the one guy that's won the last 5 tournaments in a row, don't freak out about him. Focus on your team. And also, I really tell you, do not go around looking at other people's teams and thinking about changing your team. Don't be that douchebag that brings 2 teams and it's like, well, after I saw everyone else's team, I'm going to play the one that's going to screw over everyone the most. Don't do that. Be honorable, be legitimate. Play straight up, because if you keep doing that, what's going to happen is when you get to high level play and you have to write in what your team is ahead of time before you see anybody else's play, you're not going to be ready. You've always were able to hedge your bets, and it makes you a piss poor player and makes you a weaker player. Okay, so anyway, once you've assessed, like, man, I ate 5 burritos, 3 Mountain Dews, got 2 hours sleep, and just came from work. Yeah, that could be the reason why you're not doing too well. All right, so let's go to the next level. When you're right there and you're looking at your opponent's team, and this somewhat gets back to what we say about assessment of your opponent and all that from the first half of the show. But what we're really saying right now is, okay, I've looked at my opponent. And I want you to say this and be legitimate with yourself after all said and done in your Heroclix notebook. I did not, and you need to write the following: I knew what was going to happen and I could not stop it, or I didn't know what was going to happen until it happened, or I was clueless the entire time on how I lost. And then write down the team in which you lost to. Okay? And then spend time later on just dissecting that team. What the heck? All right? So, and then also go to the rules form and find out if certain combinations are legal or not, because I haven't met a flawless judge, including myself. There's all sorts of problems and judges make bad decisions. So, next up, I would say, is once you've gone through your tournament rounds, you can do a brief assessment of, in between rounds, did I regroup myself? Or was I still lingering on past games? And this really happens when people lose, is that they have a tendency to talk to somebody else who lost, and then they go gripe and complain about their game. While this can help some people, most of the time it doesn't help people look forward and help them look at what they did wrong and what they need to improve. It just causes so much problems. Or if they win a game, they're high on themselves. So take the pride, arrogancy out, and also take the woe is me out, and then you're like able to do better. Okay? At the end of the tournament, what I want you to take that moment of looking back and reflecting and saying, and this is the last level of where did I fail? When everything's fresh in my mind about what went on, what are my thoughts? When I just finished everything, what are my thoughts? Now you're going to say, Dark Logos, the tournament's over. That doesn't make sense. While I'm thinking about my thoughts after the tournament, I've already played the games. No, 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 no. This is very important. Where your head is at the end of that tournament is going to shape your mental, your emotional, and just overall psychological response to building your next team. Because whatever failures you have, you're going to come back and be like, "Oh, I'm so angry. Superman makes me angry. Ooh, I'm angry. Brainiac makes me angry. Ooh, I'm angry. Wolverine makes me angry." And you will fail to see what's really going on. And your next time you come around to your concept is, I'm going to kill Superman, Brainiac, Wolverine, Mr. Fantastic, whatever. And that's just bad. That's just bad tactics, okay? So, see where your mindset is at. And then write that down. If your mindset is toxic, then you need to find a way to detox right after a tournament. All right. So, that is it for this show. And there's some elements in which I hope that you're able to use immediately, some that I know that you won't be able to use for a while. I want you to take a step back, relax after this one, maybe go through it again and take some notes. Because I feel at this stage in the game, our biggest problem in our community is people have told us why we failed or our team failures, but they really haven't told us how to process failure. And so I feel that we need to learn how to process failure better so that we can just have higher levels of play. And it doesn't just mean that the good people become better, but that even the scrub can become, the champ. All right. So that's it. Again, apologize for the delay. I am going to be spending the next 15, 20 minutes or longer trying to get my phone to talk properly with my laptop so that I can use the internet on my phone to upload this episode to YouTube. So yay. Okay. If not, I've gone to the public library and uploaded it. All right. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter. That's at startoverpod. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do. Please do. That helps me a lot. Helps me gauge my consistent audience. And then not only that, it allows me to come to several other decisions about future media options. Next up, I want you to check out the blog. The blog, people. It has continuous content. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I literally don't get it that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, actually it's Friday or Saturday, then trust me, either sometime at the crack of midnight, I've just submitted it, or you're going to get something the following day. So don't be like, well, Dark Logos has been slacking. Well, the job is sort of, it takes precedence. So, all right, that's it. If you have any, if y'all have any topics that you want me to talk on, let me know. I definitely am open to commentary. Now, here's the thing. Someone wanted me to do maps. I got an email, and they were like, hey, Dark Logos, can you do map analysis? I can't really do map analysis really well on this show because it's not a visual-based show. And then not only that, I've tried doing a setup in which I show my play sphere, my map and stuff, recording with using my webcam, and it looked horrible. Horrible, so horrible. I wasted 3 hours trying to explain how broken Stranger and two AIM Renegades was, and and really, I that was just bad. So the everything about it was bad. So that's the best thing I can say. So uh, I can't really do map analysis because there's a lot of look at this square, look at that square, look at this other square. But if you have almost anything else, I'm good to go. Now, if like you could say, like I did that episode during Gen Con, which I talked about all the Gen Con legal maps. Yes, I could talk about them in general, but you have to be looking at them yourself. So if that's something that you want, give me a list of 4 or 5 maps, and we'll just go and talk about them. But if you want me to like look at square, A15 and the positioning possibilities and stuff like that, then no, I don't. It's not that I'm not capable. I just don't think that would be a very entertaining show because you don't listen to this show to be bored. All right. All right. That is it. I appreciate you for listening. I appreciate y'all for subscribing. And I apologize for the background noise and the buses and the streets and the honkings and everything else that you've heard during the podcast. And I know normally you don't hear that, but I apologize. Just the place that I'm recording. Anyway, thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.